to call the July 31st, 2023 Management Services meeting to order. You've got that. Okay. Motion to approve the agenda.
I'll do that.
Is there a second? Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Are there any public comments? Seeing none, maintenance supervisor report.
Okay, so let's start with some inspections that were taken care of this past month. The fire alarm systems in the administrative center here and in the jail were both inspected and recertified. Metro Power came down and did their maintenance and inspection on all 3 generators. There was a small issue with the 911 generator, not with the new unit itself, but the gas regulator leading up to it. It was causing the generator to overcrank, and the gentleman determined that the regulator was bad, had gone bad, and so he replaced that. And it's fine now. The state fire marshal was on site, recertified, inspected the boilers, the 4 over at the jail and courthouse. He's coming back in a couple of weeks to do the 3 over here. I forget why he had to leave, but he was pressed for time and he couldn't do it on that particular visit, so he's going to be coming back in a couple of weeks. Every year, when they come, they have to find something. Otherwise, they're not doing their job. He said, I need to get carbon monoxide detectors in the boiler rooms. It's never been brought up to me in the past by any of the inspections, and he said they can be any sort of Walmart hardware store, so it's a plug-in unit, and it just anywhere in the boiler room, he said it's fine. And we didn't get, of course, dinged on that or anything. He just said, for in the future and so. So I've already bought some detectors I'm going to get up in there. I had to have some work done on the white county work truck that I drive around in. The back bumper completely rusted into 2 bumpers. It was just sort of 2 dangling pieces, so I had a new back bumper installed on there, as well as I had to have the front brakes done. They'd gotten really bad, and I think I milked them along about as long as I could. Give that truck a little bit of life. Yvonne, the housekeeper over at the courthouse, had a death in the family, and she was off all last week. So I was doubling as a janitor as well over there, keeping the bathroom stocked and giving them a light cleaning here and there and getting everyone's trash. I'd do that in the morning before anybody showed up. Rooftop ventilation unit over at the jail wouldn't be a complete year without have to have something done on that. I've had an issue in the past, the contactors up in there, the moisture, it's usually a winter deal where the condensation that forms up in that unit, because it pulls the exhaust out of the jail and their showers, and it'll cause a short. So what we did this time is Josh from B&D had an idea to hopefully remedy this problem in the future, is he installed a weatherproof box that's exteriorly mounted on the unit itself, and then ran flex conduit inside. So now the contactors and overloads are mounted outside the unit. So if that indeed is what was causing them to fail in the past, we're hoping that it'll get them out of that moisture and that environment, and that we'll get a lot more life out of those. Let's see here, nothing over animal control. Everything's working fine. I'm mowed once per week this past month over there. Coming up in the next month or 2, the backflow preventers need recertified. I usually have Precision Piping come down and do that. Nobody in town is certified to do that, unfortunately. I am going to start servicing all 7 boilers here in the next couple months. It's usually a fall project for me. USDA, as per their contract, they need to have some work done coming up. Their carpets are going to need cleaned, and their floors need buffed and waxed. That's in their written contract. There's also some carpets around the building that when that's getting done, I'm going to have cleaned as well. The finance department's one. Looking at this room, I may have them hit this room as well. And other than that, and general maintenance and little piddly things, daily basis stuff, that's pretty much all the major things to report to you guys. Well, if anyone's interested, I'm replacing all of the towel dispensers in all the bathrooms. Those multi-fold towels are progressively becoming more and more pricey, and I don't know if anyone's noticed, it's been brought to my attention by several people in the building how much of them get wasted. If you happen to pull and a handful comes out, and most people just throw them away. And if you look in the trash can, it winds up being like sometimes a quarter of one of those packs is just in the garbage. So what we're gonna move to I'm gonna get rid of those and put new dispensers on the wall that hold the large rolls of towels. And they're not electronic, those were much pricier than I cared to spend, but they're the type that always have the tab sticking out. So you pull it, they're kind of oblong, and it gives you what you want and then leaves another tab sticking out. It's gonna be less expensive down the road. The dispensers are barely over $50. Once you got to the battery powered one, they were well over 100. So I'm gonna be switching those out here in the next month or two, and hopefully that'll take care of that wasting issue. And that's all. I'm done talking, unless anyone has a question.
Where do you buy those
The,
dispensers?
Steve Kennedy's getting them for me through Torque. He deals with a company up north that deals in bulk with those sort of things, and due to the amount that I'm buying, we're getting a discount in the whole 9 yards. You can look online, companies sell them everywhere. There's all sorts of websites that sell them, but we get very good pricing. Same thing with the towels, those will come from him as well. He's been my supplier and always been willing to. It's like something I brought up, I think, a month ago, is I've never increased my budget lines for household supplies. I always just adjust in what we're getting and different products and whatnot. It's kind of fun, actually.
Bill, when is the USDA contract up?
Next year, 2024.
It's a doozy.
Okay.
There's some interesting stuff in that contract.
Is there any other questions for Chris? Okay. Nobody's here for the drainage project, nobody's here. Do we have anything on county farm management?
I would beg to back up to the drainage project.
Oh, okay. No, we moved past it.
Well, you're in a hurry, but John and I attended the finance committee at the city council on July 18th, and kind of a bit of a grilling, but it was okay. I mean, we tried to explain the project, and there was one person that seemed to be hung up on the fact that it was on county farm land, and that but we were asking for them to pay for half.
No, actually, they're asking us to do the project.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, and that's what they're asking.
They came to us wanting this project done.
Yeah.
So that's the way it was a couple of years ago. They came to us. Well, we did not initiate this drainage project over here. They did.
Mayor Allhams came to me with the idea of splitting it 50-50.
Right.
4 years ago.
But
He
had
wasn't
that,
asking us to pay all of it.
no, but they're the ones that came with the project wanting it done.
Right.
So it's not us asking them to come up with half of it. They're asking us to do the project. And then they're offering to split it. So
No, that's not quite right either.
They're not offering us to split anything.
they aren't?
No. That was, so anyway, after the meeting, we all agreed that we needed to try to get some solid figures of what it is gonna cost. And so, because we're pretty big. And since then, the size of the tile's been reduced. The engineer thought, or initially it was 12, but now we're down to a 10 inch with a sock on it. So that will change the price of it. And so I'd like to put it out for bid on this project, just to see where we're at in numbers.
Do you wanna put it out for bid, or do you wanna just get budget numbers? If we put it out for bid, then that means we're moving forward with the project, basically. And once we get bids in, if we don't go forward with it, then those numbers are out there, and it becomes not fair for the people that have bid if we don't do it and then we rebid it. Whereas if we just go ask for some budget numbers from a couple different contractors, then we don't have to give any names of who gave us whatever.
Well, I just kind of like to move the project ahead.
Well, I mean, it's just a matter of,
It's not that big of a project that I think it's gonna break the bank, you know. Looking at 2,500 feet total, 900 along Grant Street, and then 1,500 around the maintenance shed. And so it's not gonna be a big expense like the last time.
I mean, it's whatever you guys wanna do. I'm just pointing out the difference of getting budget numbers versus actually putting it out for bid. So if we're ready to actually move forward, but I don't know, do we wanna move forward if we don't have some kind of agreement with the city?
Well, it's kind of a catch-22 thing.
Well, that's where getting the budget numbers would give us an idea versus putting it out for bid.
Yeah.
I think we kind of have some indication of that from the fellow from Robinson Engineering that was there. He had some rough ideas of the cost per foot.
Right, he was saying it was $10 a foot. Which is base, is the rough estimate. But I think it's gonna be a little less now.
That's with the sock on
Yeah.
That flexible tile, is that what you feel?
Field tiling.
Yeah, 10 inch now.
And that's the problem.
Are there places that have to be dug up, like to tie it in, and
Across Grand Street, that would be, yes.
so there'd be road repair also?
Yeah. But the big fortunate thing that we never really had before was a good outlet over there at Porter Avenue with the T's.
So $10 a foot, what do you figure?
I don't know, I was looking up, the price I got with prevailing wages about $10.50. Somebody quoted me.
How many feet we're talking about?
2,500. Yeah, 1,500 on around the maintenance shed, another 900 along Grant Street.
I will tell you this, that I did have a conversation last week with one of the city aldermen that told me that he's been getting some comments from some of the residents on Porter Avenue expressing concern over whether or not this is gonna impact that drainage system too heavily there. I think at the meeting we had, it was indicated that it's sufficient in size to do that.
Yeah, it's 24 inch.
But I'm just alerting it to the fact that there may be people from over in that area that might have some objections or concerns.
And I guess one way you can alleviate that is, what size tile were you?
10 inch.
You know, if you put a smaller tile in, it would still eventually get rid of it, but it wouldn't get rid of it as quick, which would then alleviate concerns about down the line, you know, just dumping it all.
Yeah, with throttle it back.
Yeah. You know, it might take an extra day or so for it to get gone, but it would still get it gone.
On the other hand, the reason for a larger tile was so that any leaves or debris that would get in there wouldn't clog it up, so. That's,
And also, as the proposed tile goes around the maintenance shed, there's some parking lot tiles we'd like to put into it too.
that's on the north parking lot
Yeah,
at the east end.
yeah, right.
Do we know about where those are, Bruce?
We know exactly where
We do know exactly where they
So, and then we do have an issue of broken tile in one of the field there. It's been crushed.
Is that Clayton?
No, it's cement.
Okay.
Yeah. Show you. So, I mean, it's not a new thing, but it's also maintenance issue on too. Right.
What are you talking about?
In the corner is here,
Right.
there's, you can see the tiles, they're all exposed and broken and crushed.
And this will help us.
Yeah.
Different
So
picture.
it comes around like this. And then, right here in the grass, you can follow the sinkholes up through the grass where this parking lot, or this drain comes down this way, hooks in. That's why it's kind of nice, I think we just ought to put it out for bid. I mean, we can always review it later,
We gotta have it done, right?
yeah.
Okay, so, the engineer that's been working with the city, will they be willing to write up specs so that, and have everything in there, or were we gonna get specs written?
Did that Robinson Engineering give you some maps, Amanda? I got an email that he sent you some.
I can look.
Yeah, that was what the email that you sent me last week.
Oh,
said.
yeah, okay. Yes, and I forwarded those to you, because he didn't have your email address, yes.
Okay. So there's no printed out maps yet, I mean, I don't have a way to print,
I don't have a way to print anything like that.
but we can print them on. And those
If
are,
it's anything that size, I mean, I can't print it in color
yeah,
like that. I can print on large paper like that, but nothing larger than that, and I don't have a way to print in color.
yeah, okay. Well, I think we have enough information. Go ahead and put it out for bid, and we'll have to kind of maybe sit down like we did before, you know,
Yeah.
go through the fine detail of it.
Can I ask one question? Have you guys considered retention pond on it?
I'm not really interested in
Do I?
Where are you,
Well, just anywhere over there, because otherwise all you're doing is flooding more people downstream, you know? Water gotta go somewhere,
right, water has to go somewhere.
where retention pond, you don't have to go near as big a tile and release it slowly.
This tile ties into that 1/4 inch, 24 inch that goes out to Sugar Creek.
Where you plan on draining to?
Sugar Creek,
Sugar Creek.
yeah. It's the one that goes behind the school.
Yeah.
That
Where
new
it floods
one.
all the other end of town? That's why I say about a retention pond, otherwise you're flooding somebody else on the other end of town.
Well, this is a pretty 24 inch, it's a relatively new tile, it was put in, you know, I can't say a date, you know, less than 10 years old.
Yeah.
It goes out to Sugar Creek.
I would hope that the engineer has taken all that into consideration.
I believe they have.
Well, if you want to put it out for bid, that's fine. We just need to make sure that we have, because we've sent out way too many bids without enough specs on them.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we have all the specs ready to go, preferably before the full board meeting when it gets approved to go out for bid. Is that doable?
I think so.
Anybody got any other discussion before he makes a motion? I would entertain your motion.
I'll make a motion that we put out the bid on the Grant Street drainage project.
I'll second it.
Bowers,
Yes.
Sens,
Yes.
Zumwalt,
Yes.
Barons.
Yes. All right, now can I move on from that? County farm management issues. Anybody got any?
Not that I'm aware of.
And we'll move on to animal control building and then morgue. Is there anything, Chris is gonna be meeting with one guy shortly here on getting bids for that again. There's another guy, but haven't made contact with him yet.
That's for the fence,
For the fence, yeah.
the doors.
Is that just the fence or the doors too?
I don't even know who I'm meeting with,
No.
so I don't know, I didn't set this up.
Yeah, do you know the guy's name? I don't,
Sent an email to both you and Jill.
but I don't remember. I mean, I read the email, but I don't remember names.
Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention to your question. What's your question?
I didn't have one.
Oh, okay.
I just was wondering what the guy's name was that's coming today. Do you know?
Chad, I think it's Chad Osterhaus. Osterhaus fits from
Up in,
memory, Kankakee.
Okay.
He's supposed to be there like 11-ish.
yeah, that I knew it was 11.
Alright.
I just couldn't remember her name.
There's another man to contact also from Kankakee that was offering to come down. But those phone numbers are available in that email. And then, that way you have at least 2 bids and maybe some ideas. So I didn't mention anything about the dog doors, the guillotine doors, figuring maybe that is or isn't their expertise.
You can mention it to them, see what they say. So, is there anything else on the animal control? Okay. Mortar building. John, you want to report on what you did last week?
Talked to, regarding the possibilities with the maintenance shed, I talked to the surveyor to come over and survey the area over there. I guess what Chris told me, he showed up. I asked him to call me before they came so I could be there when they came, but they didn't do that, so. But I haven't gotten a report back from them yet, so I'm not really sure where that's at. Last Thursday, Paul and I went with the coroner and the sheriff to look at the Fastenal building. It's a real big building, looks to be in real good shape. Price is very attractive. Just a question of we acquired a building like that with all that space, is that a good thing to do? Because you got a lot of empty space sitting there, and gotta maintain it, all that sort of thing.
Earlier you talked about needing space for other offices.
Well, that's true. Whether this building is suitable for that or not, I guess is debatable. It's got some areas where some very high ceiling height, and then again, there are office spaces in the building that could be utilized as well, so it might take a lot of thought and application if we felt like that was something that would work. The amount of space that the corner would occupy is
20%.
at the most of that old building, so you've got a lot of space to look at for the rest of it now. It appears to be in good condition. It's the kind of a building that if there were structural issues somewhere, way it's put together, they wouldn't be immediately apparent either. I think you'd have to conduct some kind of a detailed inspection, because it's all steel construction, it's like a pole barn, except all everything is all steel. I looked at the floor pretty carefully, and I didn't see any cracks or any issues with the floor. That looked to be in good shape yet, and so forth, so that's where that's at. I also got.
One thing, I remember that there's no small door in where the coroner wants his, so that we'd have to put one in, I guess, somewhere, yeah.
If we were gonna section that off, we'd have to give them access, for sure.
Yeah,
Cause there's
That
just
wouldn't be that much.
there's just that one door through the interior wall.
right.
Did the sheriff have any ideas on use of the space? Because I know he was looking for some space for,
He was looking for space primarily for like where he could service some of his vehicles, to wash them and that kind of thing. So he was looking to see where there was a water outlet or so forth. There wasn't anything immediate there, but again, there's some walls that are in there that may be covering some of that up. That was something. And there's electricity is off, so again, you couldn't really see everything in there that you would like to see.
There's 3 furnaces, one for each section, so, one can be shut off. We're not using it if it's a garage in the summer or anything.
And right now, at the very west end of the building is rented out to CNC Plumbing. That's an issue that I guess we would have to talk to the state's attorney about to get some ruling or opinion on whether that's something that we could continue. Because, for example, the rest of the space could maybe be rented out to other people as well.
I don't see where that'd be any different than renting space in this building.
Well, everything in this building is rented out to somebody that has a tie-in with government operations. And I think that's where the issue comes about with a lot of the activity that's been going on down in Shelby County. So until that gets clarified, I'm a little reluctant to stick our nose out too far. But I think the state's attorney would be the one to offer an opinion on that.
At the hospital board meeting the other day, this topic was brought up. The hospital would love to work with you. One of their questions was, who's gonna be responsible for transporting the body back and forth if you move it across town to do any type of harvesting of any organs, tissues, eyes, etc. Is the coroner prepared to run the body back and forth under those conditions? Because they can't leave that body in the emergency room. They have to put it somewhere until the talented persons come in to do what they need to do. So that's a disadvantage about moving it too far away from. The hospital will do some, but they're not gonna go to Fastenal or out to this building out here to get a body, so.
I mean, I guess right now, the coroner is transporting bodies wherever they need to go. So I guess I would assume,
They're left in IMH
well, but
with that cooler
that's the
until,
ones from there. I mean, there's other bodies around it, so, I mean, I guess.
right, well, that's what their question was, so, yeah.
Sounds like a question the coroner has to provide an answer to, at least in part.
Also, the hospital is in the process of trying to get some plans to build where the old clinic was, to put up a therapy building and then vacate this east campus, of which there might be room to add additional space if a coroner's area need to be there. The only thing they bring to the table is they don't pay prevailing wages. So there would be some cost savings.
I guess.
Is that what Robert's Clinic was?
So it looks like there's room for more discussion with somebody from this group and somebody from that group, and
I guess it's, do we want to own or do we want to rent?
I guess that's a good question, and probably requires a lot of careful thought. I think one of the things that would be different in so far as renting or leasing with the hospital, as opposed to renting or leasing from some other private entity is important too. The hospital is something that, you know, you would expect to be here for, not forever maybe, but it's an ongoing thing. It's not like somebody that's a landlord that may sell or decide to do things and cancel your lease with very little warning. So it might be something that would be worthy of consideration. I think it's an interesting possibility. The other question that relates to it, I suppose, is a time factor. The main reason we're considering this is that the people at NAP have indicated that they don't want us in there anymore. And they want to start charging rent as well as an incentive to get us out. And there certainly have been instances where there've been in situations where it was not very desirable for them to harbor somebody that's been deceased in an unconventional manner, shall we say, and whatnot. So what do you do there? You know, we've had to go to another county, and that's expensive. I guess to me, the thing that stands out the most is we've been kicking this thing around for almost 2 years now, and I think
Right.
it's something
I'm ready to get it off the agenda.
I think we need to get to the point where we're gonna make a decision here pretty soon.
I think we should own what we're doing.
Some of the delay or kicking it around, I think, is rests with the coroner. He's been interested in one place and then changed his mind to somewhere else, so that's influenced what we're doing as well. But in fact, like, he was the one that called my attention to the Fastenal building situation. So I'm happy that he's looking, but then again, it's like a distraction, or it tips us in another direction, so to speak. So one of the things that I wanted to show you also is that I was given this last week with regard to the interest we had over at the maintenance shed. I'm not sure that what's there would be workable, but something, some variation of that might be. And I think that's something we might want to consider as well. In other words, instead of going this way, considering we could go this way,
West.
and maybe just with a part of this, maybe like an L shape might work better than.
That's half of this size.
Yeah. Something like that might be doable. But that's something we hadn't considered before, and maybe we should consider that as well.
Well, we can build a maintenance shed and storage area a lot cheaper than we can a more, you know, so.
Well, that's the attraction to this. If we were gonna do this area over here would probably be what you're talking about, a storage, or take some of the storage space and that kind of thing. You know, it'd be easy to put electric in there and whatnot, but water and that kind of stuff increases the cost quite a bit. So if you can still use the water facilities that are here in this corner of the building, well, I think you've got a lot going for you. So.
I did look over there at the maintenance shed, Chris wasn't there, but it's full of stuff, you know, I mean, there's no extra room in there. I mean, there's pallets and stuff, and bobcats and equipment sitting around, and, we're gonna have to, you know, and I believe it's most convenient and to keep the storage shed there, because all the materials that are there on pallets get used in the courthouse and jail.
One thing we probably could do with this maintenance shed is that we probably, at the south end, there's an upper area for storage.
Yeah.
And that could maybe be utilized a little bit more, but we probably could put the same thing at the north end and store a lot of stuff up above, which would open up a lot of space on the floor.
Right, maybe get some pallet racks and stuff.
Right. I I think there's some ideas like that that probably could help out, but nevertheless, the interest or the need for more space, I think is important. And we could put an L shape in here if we wanted to at the south end, you could probably do it at the north end too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of possibilities.
How much are they asking for the Fastenal building? Did they give you a price?
Yeah. It's good, very good price,
Okay,
200.
I see. Based on.
I don't think we can build anything for that, for what prices we've been getting and everything else.
Yeah,
No, my concern, like I said, is if you have a lot of extra space, that can be a liability rather than an asset. You have to, utilization of space is key to efficient operation. And I think that's one of the things you have to, I don't mean to say it has to be 100% occupied, not by any stretch of the imagination, but 20% versus 80% empty is, to me, that's maybe not good management. You're paying insurance on the whole building, you're paying all other kinds of expenses, plus your deterioration of the premises from upkeep is accelerated. So, I mean, to me, if we had a plan to utilize 70% of the space, 60%, I'd say that'd be a pretty good idea.
right.
Not to put you on the spot, Chris, but from what the sheriff has discussed his needs, do you think a lot of that building would get utilized?
Which building are you talking about?
As fast as- I mean, if you don't wanna say, don't say.
I honestly don't know how to answer that,
It's okay.
especially without him here. I mean, that's something
Well,
to ask him.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a chance to talk to him about, I just know there's been things said about he needed space for different things, and I didn't know how much you discussed it with him.
Since you asked, I'll give my 2 cents and tell me to shut up, but we're always looking for space.
His interest in the space is for doing some of the routine maintenance on the squad cars. Right now, they've got that little concrete block building right to the east of the jail. And I don't know enough about, like, for example, how well does that building work in the wintertime when you have colder temperatures and maybe snow and all that.
It's just a wash place to wash.
But in the summer, that's fine for that, I guess, because especially the other avenue is if he has a good trustee that can do that work. But you wouldn't want to have a trustee out at some remote location.
Yes.
Somebody'd have to transport him there in the first place, and I don't think he'd want to leave him out there. That probably wouldn't be, I mean, there's only been one trustee that I know of in the time that I've been around here that I thought would be closely available, or, good idea to do something like that. But I would imagine he's trying to use trustees for that routine maintenance as much as possible.
Right.
And I think his goal is to have a squad car for every deputy. So that's a lot of squad cars. And
If he does that, it could end up to where then he'll budget for a mechanic.
well,
And then he'll need a place for that mechanic to work.
I think Brennan is doing the maintenance now, isn't he?
right now, the sheriff's budget is 38% of the total budget in the county, is what's projected for next year. That's an awful lot in one department. I'm not saying it isn't justified or needed, but I mean, it's still a fact that you add more into this, that are you increasing or decreasing? If he wants to do his own maintenance routine maintenance out there, does that mean he's doing less with an outside firm? And are we saving money that way? I don't know the answer to that, but it'd have to be a trade-off, wouldn't it?
Well, it was brought up about costs and finance, so, I don't know. And that's something that we would have to look at long term, but I think if the price is good on the building and we're able to utilize it the way we want to utilize it, even if there is a little empty space now, it'll get used. some department will need room for storage or something.
Oh, yeah,
I think that we can move, is there any way we can move some of the offices out of here? I mean, we're always looking for space, like, remember we went through the health department thing?
Well, I don't know that we're gonna move any offices out of here, but you would gain by, I mean, the coroner's office could move out of the jail, and they've already got people wanting that office.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that's where you put the officer that, is the one that was assigned to go out with the DCFS or whatever.
Oh, okay.
You know, maybe that's the place to put his office, free up space other places. You know,
the only other concern that we haven't talked about with the Fastenal building is if there's a flood. That place is never flooded, it's probably not likely to ever flood, but when there is a flood, it's cut off from over here. You can't, the only way you can get from here over there is to go way up Highway 52 or whatever, all the way around.
Yeah.
I mean, is that an issue or not? Is that something, a condition you wanna deal with?
as long as the building itself doesn't flood, that would affect us for what, a week out of a year maximum?
Every building and home in this city can flood. They're all vulnerable.
Yeah,
It's just how high is the river gonna go?
if it goes that high, then it doesn't matter.
This building right here is one that I get concerned about a little bit because it could very easily be something that would happen here and just the things that are inside this building that would be ruined or destroyed would be almost catastrophic.
But the Fastenal building as it sits is not in a floodplain.
It's not, well, I don't believe it's in the floodplain, but I know it hasn't ever flooded, the water hasn't come that close, but it has, it's, you know, it's there.
CNC Plumbing's there and they've never had a flood.
Right. The other issue that we would also have to be concerned about that building is the maintenance around the exterior of the building. There's a big parking lot there. So that has to be plowed in the winter. And it's gonna be an expense to maintain, you know, what we deal with in maintaining our parking lots and blacktop here, so you're gonna have that out there. That's a big
There's-
parking lot.
No matter what we do or where we do it, there's gonna be negatives.
I'm just identifying things, I'm not saying one way or the other. Please understand that.
And as far as maintenance goes, that brings up another issue of no matter what we do or where we do it, it's adding more on Chris. So we either need to figure out what we're doing, because when he's busy, he's busy. Yes, he does have times when he has downtime, but if he's super busy, you know, so we either need to look at possibility of getting somebody else to help him, or
Well, some of what
putting more in the, budget line for
some of
outside services.
Some of what you're saying brings us right back to the hospital thing. You want to consider aligning yourself with the hospital like Doug's talking about, then you don't have those issues.
But you would have other issues.
Plus, if it's a new building they're gonna put up, it's gonna be a long time before that's done, I think. I don't know.
You have a timeline on that new building, Doug?
They're getting some preliminary building costs in the design. So now would be the time to figure out how much the morgue would take room-wise and see what's, I think they want to build soon. They might even have an offer on this East Campus building. So then they're gonna have to, I don't know, a year or less, two, whatever, out.
I believe what we were looking at when we were looking at building was 1,200 square feet. Approximately 30 by 40.
Yeah, that's it. It doesn't even need to be that much.
If that was, you know, if you're looking for a size, that's what we were looking at.
I think there's room over there on the lots, because they've taken that house down that was north of the clinic, and so that's I don't think 1,200 feet is gonna be missed in the site plan.
I think part of the discussion with the hospital from an immediate nature was using their maintenance shed for this purpose. Right now, that part of it was taken over by some office space by the maintenance man. And if he could move his facility elsewhere in the building, then there would be enough space there for the morgue to be there. If we were gonna align with the hospital, at least on a temporary basis, that's something that probably could work. I have not, in the beginning, but have really gotten into a real detailed investigation of that option yet.
I kinda like the Fastenal building if we can find something to fill the extra space. But I think we should look at the hospital too.
I don't think there'll be a problem with filling the space.
Maybe one thing as far as the Fastenal building, one thing that might help the committee would be if we schedule a tour of the building.
Yeah.
We could get a better appreciation of what's involved and what might be done with it. I think the only real issue I would have with that is if we could try and find some way to illuminate the interior of the building in some of those places well enough to.
Yeah, we don't know what the lighting system is.
Look at it a little bit more carefully than what we did last week.
Well, we could, I mean, when are you proposing to go see it?
I guess all we have to do is
Call the
contact
realtor.
Ted Smith and arrange something. He's they're wanting, the owner wants, the reason the price is attractive is because they're looking for a quick sale. And he told us on Friday that he would, because we weren't sure how we would go, he said he would do everything he can to hold the thing off while we tried to make up our minds.
And it's owned by Fastenal? Who's it owned by?
I don't know, I forget the name of the person that owns it.
It's not Fastenal.
No, it's not Fastenal. They leased it, I believe.
Yeah.
Can I make one comment? It's an old building, it's got a lot of code violations, gonna have to be brought up to code. When you start doing that, you gotta figure all that in first before you buy the building.
Is there a year built when it was built?
I didn't, we didn't get into the.
Whenever you do an alteration, though, it's all gotta come to code.
And get a spec sheet or anything?
No, our purpose was just to get an overall view of the building
Yeah, I'd
and
be
think about
up
what
for
it
looking at it.
would be something we'd be interested in.
Why don't we make arrangements to look at it after the full board meeting next week? And let's try to get some numbers together on what the hospital's thinking, timeline, all that kind of stuff. And is there any other options out there? So we can look at all the options next month and make a decision.
Yeah, other option is with this, if you wanna continue on with investigating with that, we could go to that over there at that space. I think from a location standpoint, and some of the things we've talked about, the hospital and or something like this, probably location wise is the best direction to go, but Fastenal building is something that's doable and will work.
Okay, well, can you set up that for after the board meeting? Then we can let everybody on the whole board, if they wanna go, they can go. And
Yeah, I'd like to see it.
then we can, and if we can come up with some kind of timeline or whatever on what the hospital's thinking, and
So if we do that, we'll be suggesting maybe like 11 o'clock in the morning. We have to kind
as
of
long
set
as you
time.
keep the meeting moving, that's,
Yeah.
You got the gavel, you got the gavel.
I'd rather 10:30, but that doesn't usually happen.
Well, that's part of the question. I don't wanna have the real estate man standing out there twiddling his thumbs all morning.
He wants to sell the building.
That's all right. I don't feel bad for a real estate.
No, he wants to sell the building, he'll wait.
So, yeah, I mean, tell them it'll be between 11 and 11:30 when we get there. Well, how many people do you have? Well, you've already seen them. Because you always have a bunch of stuff you have to do after the meeting.
I'd like to be,
Yeah.
I think 11 o'clock is doable.
Okay.
Some of the things that I have to do after the meeting can be done later in the day, some of the other things can be curtailed.
Okay.
Okay, we'll see what we can set up for that.
Okay.
Week from tomorrow.
And the plan is to have, anybody that's got any other options, we need to have them at next month's meeting so we can get this done.
Type as well.
Yes. I mean. All right. Anybody got anything else on that? Otherwise we'll move to the claims. Any questions on the claims?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Bowers,
Yes.
Benz.
Yes.
Seymour,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes. Any old business? Is there any new business? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned. Well, maybe you guys wanted to stay a while longer.
No, let's get out of here.
Yes, I got places to be and